Go away, woodlouse. You're in danger of not surviving this video. That's it, go on the floor. Somebody turns up. I keep smashing this until you do. Ah! So, welcome. You're probably wondering what this video is about, what this live stream is about. Let me explain. So today's live stream is testing a sharp Seax on camera. So here we have a Seax I've had for many years. This is a sharp one. It's fundamentally designed for cooking. It was a knife I used to use for cooking, and it used to belong to an old friend of mine called Thorolf, and he was a superb cook. And so this was his knife he used to cutting meat. If he was on camp and he was roasting, you know, beef or venison, and then cutting bread and cheese and vegetables. And I must say, it is a lethal knife. In fact, on my hand and my finger, I've got a good old scar from this knife when I was at Westow and I sliced into my hand, and it did do a good job. So we'll wait for some people to join up, and then we will start the live stream. So we've got somebody here, so hang on a minute, I'm not going. So I've got some bottles to test, and we're going to attempt, when I don't fall over, to chop some bottles up with this Seax. We'll wait, see if we get some people first. I hope you're all having a good day wherever you may be on Earth. I've got a few bottles to test, so I think it will be quite interesting, but there's no point doing it until somebody joins up. When we get a few people, it's a bit impromptu. I was just thinking about it whilst I was in the house. I'm thinking, oh, I'll go and get my sharp Seax out, and then I'll chop some bottles in half. Now they've got water in, so they're pretty solid and pretty heavy. And there's just some old bleach bottles I've been saving, and I did film a video the other day which has not been published yet. As it falls down on the floor, Kiss, that's Loki's fault, that. So we'll wait, see who turns up. Of course, if you don't know who we are a medieval storytelling channel, but we like to cover lots of subjects on this channel. So do say hello, and do please too like the video. We'll just go to the live chat. Do say hello in the live. Then at some point when we've got a few people, I'll chop this in half. We'll see whether this knife, a sharp one, can actually chop this bottle in half. Do you think it can, or do you think it will struggle? Do you think it will bounce off? Do you think it will go through half the bottle? I'd love to, for you to know. And of course, I used to use this Seax for woodwork. So, although I got to the stage with this Seax where I didn't want to work on the wood anymore, because I was just fearful that it might end up, breaking. But I'm sure you agree, it's scraping wood of this all right. Let's try this then. I mean, not the best thing to do with your Seax, to be fair. But that's a project I'm working on for a video series. Oh, so hello, somebody here. Do say hello. Do like the live stream, and do hang about. For in a few minutes, I will chop one of these bottles in half. But there's no point doing it until a few of you get here. So let's just give and let the live stream warm up. I reckon we got about an hour of daylight. It's been a lovely day. So what have I been up to today? So I went into Derby to go to a meeting, and I then went and had two lovely pints. One was a pint called Cherry Stone, which you'll see on the channel, which I filmed and then got back and did a voiceover for it, and I must say that was a very nice pint. And it did have that hint of cherry. And it's from a brewery from Staffordshire in Stone called Limestone Brewery. I must say that was a really nice pint. It was £1.99. I must say, £1.99, you can't complain. I do love a beer now and again, but I'm not a massive drinker. I don't go out every day. It'll be once or twice a week at the most. On average, probably once a week. So we've got 2 people watching, so hello, thank you for joining in. Don't forget to like the live stream. And I didn't really get a chance to dress as a Viking on this video, and I did think about it, but I'm using bleach bottles, and I don't want any residue of the bleach to land on my nice woolen clothing. I don't mind these getting ruined, but I do really object to my Viking clothing getting ruined. So I did have a top on. I thought to myself, well, no, wait a minute, I'm using bleach bottles, even though there's no bleach in them. It's just water from my swimming pool, which is over there. It may have a trace of bleach still left in it, and I just don't want to take that risk, because it's very difficult to get rid of, you know, bleach stains from clothing. I mean, we've all done it. We've all been bleaching the bathroom, and some of it lands on your towel, but then you got all these white streaks on your red towel. I've definitely done that in my life. Yes, so we've got a few bottles. I've got some more down there. We'll see how this goes with the live stream, and I mean, I could attempt to do a bit more work on here, because it is sharp and it will take, you know, material off, but at the same time I want to be careful. I don't want to break the old Seax, but at the same time that is working, I must say. I mean, I used to use this Seax all the time for woodworking. It was really good at getting rid of bark of wood. But I just got to the stage where I thought to myself, well, I don't want it breaking on the handle at the joint, so, of the tang. But perhaps I could use this, because as you see already, it's putting in a really nice straight face there and reducing that weight. And I do need to have more material coming off this to make it worthwhile, to make it work as a club. But at the same time, you've got to be so careful with your hand, because literally this would take your finger off in one blow, because I've sharpened it and I'm lethal when it comes to sharpening things. And the reason why I'm doing these cuts is so that when I'm cutting down, it's not going to create a split and go further down into the wood. Then what happens, it feathers off then, and it's not going to cause too much damage. So yeah, there's a bit of a bonus to this video, because I'm actually doing some woodwork. I wonder if I can find, hang on a minute, I just wonder whether I can get one of these, and whether we could try to debark something. So let's have a go. So we've got a bit of a log, we don't need that. So we get rid of the knot. There's another nasty knot there. Naturally, I would saw this bit here off at some point, because it's got no use, this kink really. But that's a nice straight section down here, which will make a nice handle. And I got a wood horse over there. You'll just see the back of it, the top of it. I do need to make 2 legs for it. So I used to use this for debarking, and if you see, it really does take off the bark in long chunks. So did you sharpen it? No, I've not sharpened this for probably 15 years. So if we have a look, so let's have a look at the blade. Been careful with the blade, I don't want to cut my hand. So it's not been sharpened for many years, and you'll see the edge, it's slightly rough in places. It's got little, you know, if you put it under a microscope, you'll see it's very dented, and you know, it's got little cuts in there, little noggins, and so I've not sharpened it for many years. So, and then Brad says, not sure if you can cut straight through that bleach bottle cleanly. You should cut it at least. Well, I know the answer to that already. So shall we have a go at one of these bottles? I'd have to move stuff. let's just move that and that one. So no, in that occasion it didn't, no. So we got halfway cut, but it not quite. And now the other day it did. As I was saying that, I just threw my Seax out of my hand. I didn't need to do that. Oh, that was what you call a flying Seax. My hands were wet. That was funny. But I don't do them all in one go, so we'll go back to the wood and make sure we're not damaged this at all. At some point I want to get a little copper plate on the end of here, but we'll continue just debarking this, because I do need to take the bark off. And what I don't want to do is to break it. But maybe if I sharpened it with a stone, it may go through. But are some bleach bottles tougher than other bleach bottles? That could also be the possibility in this situation. But I'm sure you agree. I mean, it's getting rid of this bark okay. And this is this is hazel, not the person, but the wood. Yes, I wasn't expecting my Seax to fly out my hand and go flying. That was funny. Maybe not if you was down there and it hit you. That wouldn't be funny. And we'll go a bit further down. I mean, we're getting some good chunks off. I mean, they're good and big. So how's your day been? Please let me know in the comments how your day has been. I've had a good day. I've not put too many videos out today. I think I put out 4, including the long video about self-care. But I do try to relate it to the Viking age as well in those videos. It makes you think how long self-care has been a thing. Yeah, so within this bit of wood there may be a nice leg. So yeah, good job you don't have a cameraman down there. That would have gone very bad. That would have gone viral. Oh yeah, well normally on the channel we always joked about the cameraman being called Bob. So if Bob was down there, he may have ended up in hospital. Poor old Bob. And the only reason why we chose that name for our pretend cameraman was because it was a funny name. Mainly from the Blackadder series. Because Bob. This sounds funny, doesn't it? And also because I had an old friend of mine in many years ago I used to go clubbing with, whose name was Bob, but his real name was Jonathan. So how did you go from Jonathan to Bob? I could never quite understand, and to this day I don't know. So so I can now put this wood at the end on the ground, and then I can go down. It's a little bit rough here, and we've got a bit of a notch there we don't want. I mean, if your piece of wood is too long for your wood horse to take this off with a draw knife, then you'll definitely use a sharp knife like this. And we've got a little bit of a rough area down here that we'll take off, we don't need. And this bit of rough area is probably not going to be much good. So this first bit here will be a leg. Then you've probably got a nice handle between there and there. And maybe this section could be a spoon, then another leg up here. So yes, he was only worth a bob, was Bob. And I've got no idea what's happened to my friend Bob. I think he kind of fell out with him, or he fell out with me. Or I think we just stopped talking, to be fair. You do, don't you, in life? You move on from your friends and make new friends. Yes, I wasn't really planning on actually doing this to a piece of wood, but now I think about it, it's a good idea on camera, because I need to do it. I need to take the bark off. So and it demonstrates the effectiveness of a Seax, because we always think about a Seax being a weapon, don't we? But it's not. It's a tool fundamentally, and it's such an important tool. Yes, when I got in from Derby, from going out this afternoon, I had a nice little kip when I felt a bit tired, so put some music on. I fell asleep for about an hour. That was quite nice. Had an afternoon kip. It's so important when you're tired. Then I'm just trying to deal with some of these little knotty areas. This is one here you can see. You can see there's a bit of a knot. There's a few knots down there. But gradually we'll deal with them. And then let's just flick it around. Being careful of my magnolia. And then we have a bit here we don't need. And we see that clearly just taken that off in one go. And then we have a little bit here we don't need. And we'll put it down and we'll just attack them with a bit more force. This one we don't need. Get rid of that knot. We don't need this one. We don't need this. And I try not to take too much off, just the bark. I actually love it when it comes off in a big long length. Of course, if we collect enough of these, we could think about building some sort of a structure in the garden. I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to weigh up in my mind how I could build a open-ended building, and then what I could use for the roof. So if I could find a source where I can go and get some reeds for the roof and put a proper thatched roof on, then we could do that. But I'm going to need probably 6 decent long posts, and I do know where they are, some I could probably salvage. But will I be able to get them in my car is another story, or perhaps I may have to do some work on site. But I'm thinking about it. I just love to have an open-ended workshop where I could have a nice forge, have all my Viking tools hanging up, and then we could really get into making things and crafting things and casting things and blacksmithing things in an authentic manner. But these sort of things take time. But if we could say, 5 years down the line, that is where we're going to be on the channel, where we've got that space outside. And even better, if I could fund a longhouse being built, then we'll definitely go down that route. But again, some of that income for that longhouse is going to have to come from the channel, and I need to start making advertising revenue from the channel. So I think I've got about 1,700 hours. We was on 2,000, so the last 2-3 weeks we've done 300 hours of watch time extra. So if you can watch the long format videos, and even just put them on your phone or your TV when you're going out, it does help. I sometimes do that. If I remember, I think, oh, I'll go and put a playlist on. I'm going out for 3 hours, and then that'll be a few more hours of watch time. But then the other night, on Sunday night, I was very naughty. I was doing a live stream and I showed a musket and had it in my hand, and that's why the live stream disappeared, because YouTube took it off. So I learned a lesson then about not showing guns in live streams. But thankfully, we only got disabled for 24 hours. And I didn't get a strike or a warning. It was just a common mistake. Yeah, so within this stick, within this log, there'll be something useful. But we'll have a go at this bottle and see whether we could chop this one in half. I mean, if I think about putting a log in behind it, then it might not go flying so hard. At the same time, without damaging my club I'm making. So will this chop it in half? We'll see. Oh, well, there's that one in half for you. Slightly bent there, so not the most clean as the cuts, but I'm sure you agree that was quite effective. And then I chopped it in half again, look. Of course, I'm going to end up with loads of bits of plastic around my house now and my garden. And then, you know, it's got no water, so it's got less resistance and more resistance with the water. But I must say, that was quite good. And there's the other half of it. So we'll go back to that. I know I got a wet club now. But let me just go and grab one of these bigger branches. So we've ended up with a bit of a live stream when it comes to crafting. So again, I've got to take the bark off these in order to make something out of them. Because you don't want to leave the bark on if you can. And like I said, I love it when you get this nice long streaks. And then you can see this layer here is a wet layer, it's a cambion layer. Then underneath here is a layer we've got to go for, which is, and there's a nice long length. You can see, look at that. You can see the difference here. That's the layer we're going for, this yellow layer, and not the white layer. So, and this is a bit of this is willow. But there's another nice length. It's another nice good length of bark coming off. It's amazing how wet and slimy and damp it is. It smells. I don't know what it smells of, but it smells nice. Well, I guess it smells like bark, but it's got a smell to it. I don't know what it is. Yeah, sniffing bark on camera could be a new feature. All the youth will be doing it now. Yeah, man, I went to the party the other day and I sniffed some bark. Yeah, I've probably gone a little bit too far there, but it's okay. Because out of this, I'm going to make some hammerheads, and then I've got some other ideas. Because the Anglo-Saxons used to make the mallet heads out of willow, and then they would have hazel for the handles. So remove this back, because it's slightly difficult to talk and work at the same time, because I'm keeping an eye on what I'm doing. Because the last thing I want is to cut myself and hurt myself. You said you're barking, says Brad. Oh, I'm definitely barking mad. Definitely. And then you can get your knife behind it. You can see that layer I've got to try to take off. It does feel nice. Like I said, this could do with a sharp, but it'll be even better if it was really razor sharp. And then I'm not trying to dig in with it, I'm just trying to go along the wood grain, so that I'm going along the second layer in after the bark, so that I'm taking the bark off on the cambion layer. I think that's the right term for it, I forget now. And then I'm going to end up with the wood itself, and then I'm going to let that dry naturally outside for, I think, about the next stage of turning it into something. And again, just being careful what I'm doing on camera, because you only got to chop your leg with this and you could cut your artery and I could be dead in 5 minutes. So you've got to be so careful. And I don't want to drop it on the camera either. We'll go a bit further back, you'll see what I'm doing. Yeah, for a long time I wanted to introduce crafting to the channel, but A, I never got round to it, B, I never had the confidence, and see, it was just a little bit too complicated to actually get onto the channel. But the girlfriend, who I love dearly, kind of been encouraging me for a while, and she came up with some ideas which I've never quite done yet because they're very complicated crafting ideas, but at some point I will do them. So and then we will develop the crafting side of things on the channel, and I like to get to the stage where we could make some nice swords and axes and Seaxes, and that'll be the pinnacle where we're going to get to. So we're starting way down here, we're beginning the journey, and we've got a long way to go to get to that pinnacle of the journey where we're going to make the most excellent, amazing things. Very much like Todd's workshop, if you know that guy, Todd. I think it's Todd Carter his name is, or is it? I think his name is Carter. Anyway, if you know Todd's workshop, then you know he's up here, he's gone even higher, and his crafting ability is amazing. But you got to start somewhere. So if I start slicing in, it makes it a bit easier. But then you could also scrape up if you wanted to, like this, but it's not so effective as going down with the knife. So let's just put this over here. Being careful. Because I tell you what, this is quite heavy, but it's getting lighter as I'm taking the bark off. Don't forget to also like this live stream as well. And willow's got sort of a certain look to the bark and to the wood. And then you can take some of it off by hand, as it's getting loose now, as I'm doing there. And again, we'll pull that bit off, and we'll try to deal with this bit up here. And then I'll probably chainsaw this into the lengths I need for the jobs I need, because I don't have an authentic saw, unfortunately, not yet in my life. And this was chainsawed down in the wood, where I know I can get some wood for free now and again if I'm not too naughty and take too much. But I think about willow, if you chop it down at the bottom, it will just sprout back up, and then you're going to end up with a bigger tree in a few more years. It won't do no harm. But I wonder what this would be like if it was even sharper. So perhaps another task for another day would be to actually give it a sharpen. We'll try to put some of the weight on here, look. So look at that length, I mean, sure you agree. And that's also very good for your fire as well, because a lot of this stuff will dry, and it's going to be great for the fire, and that'll make great kindling. So you don't waste anything, you use all your wood chips and all your wood shavings, and you save it to light your fires. So that was the Vikings and the Saxons just being clever with this stuff. If you're taking the time to make the bark, you may as well use it afterwards. And I tell you what, it really does make a fire starter. You put that on your fire, especially fine wood shavings when you're using a wood horse. They're even better, I must say. So we'll turn that over. Go for this bit down here. And when we've done this log, we'll attempt to do another bottle. So what you don't do this and go towards your hand. That's how you're going to cause yourself an injury. So always work away from your hand and never towards your hand or towards your body. Work away, because that's going to save your hand and protect you. And yeah, luckily when that went flying, because of my wet hand, it didn't damage it. And luckily on this there's not too many knots, so that's good. You don't often get knots on willow compared to hazel. You get a lot of knots on hazel, but it's such a lovely wood. And then it's amazing how wet this is and how damp. So now I've got to let it dry. I'll let it dry outside. I don't want it cracking, so I'll just let it dry naturally and don't force it to dry. But also don't leave it in the sun directly, so I leave it in the shady area. This round here is just perfect for it. And then this will dry. I better to saw it into the lengths I need. And then I'm going to make a few mallets. I'm going to give 1 or 2 mallets away. Maybe I may even think about doing some kind of a giveaway on the challenge of what I'm making out of this. I've got to think about where I can send it to, because I think some countries like Australia, you wouldn't be able to send it to Australia, but probably America would be okay. And then we'll do a competition, perhaps. And then I know you could put your name in the hat, and then we could do one of these virtual tombolas, and then or maybe the best comment. We'll figure out some way of giving them away. Then I'm going to send one to Iwick, my brother down in London, or Londinian. So if we do get a few of these in this length, which is about 7 foot, I could use these as a way to make an outdoor structure. But there's just a lot of work involved, and I'm going to have to calculate how much wood I'm going to need for the job. Because fundamentally, if you're going to have it 7 foot high, I'm going to need it to be 9 foot in length, so there's at least 2 foot buried in the ground in a post, in a pit, a post pit, or pit post, pit post, a hole post, yeah. And then normally you line the bottom with stone, then they will pack them up with stone around this side as well sometimes. And then we could think about actually building some sort of, on the lawn, maybe over here, maybe down that way, some sort of a authentic looking open-ended building. And that could be our first building project, but I'm going to need to get the material together first. So again, we're going to take this bit off, don't need that in my life. Now sometimes you do want to keep the bark on. I know one of my Dane axes is made from hazel, and down the side it's got the bark, and down the other side it's got the bark taken off. So on some occasions you do want to keep the bark on wood, and whether I think it's always better to take the bark off on a post for a building rather than leave it on, because the post can increase the ability of it to create disease and rot, whereas underneath is much tougher. So if we use 2 hands, it's a bit easier. I mean, look at that length. I mean, look at that, magical. I mean, and then it's sort of a lovely colour inside, and it does smell. It smells a bit like almonds or nuts. It smells a bit like hazelnuts, but it's not hazel. It's willow. So if we use 2 hands, it's just a bit easier. You're getting more force behind it, more friction. And then the other day I was watching a video from the Sutton Hoo boat people who are building a replica of the Sutton Hoo boat, and they were cleaving a massive piece of oak in half. I think it was like 15 foot long and 3 foot, 200 years old oak. And they were using metal wedges and wooden wedges and mallets and sledgehammers, and they cleaved it in half. And that's how you make your planks. And that's an art form in itself. I mean, you could get a throw, and you could start splitting this in half and make 2 posts out of this length. If it's, they don't always split in half equally, but often they do if you go along with the grain. And willow was often used for posts, for fence posts. It was a regular material, because what the Romans and the Saxons would do, and later the Norse Vikings, they would find a willow tree and they would top it, and then the new sprouts would all go up, and then in 5-10 years time they got, you know, 20 straight, you know, branches going straight up, and then they'll coppice them and start all over again. So it's also about longevity, and it's also about the long process of, you know, from one generation to the next generation of harvesting trees. But let's face it, if you've got land and you've got 200 willow trees and you top them, and you're going to get yourself 1,000, you know, post every 10-15 years, depending on how fast it grows. Pollard is the correct term. It's a pollard of tree. Yeah, I've just remembered that. I knew it was in my brain somewhere. So when I finish this one, we'll test another bottle and see whether we can chop another bottle in half. And this is a little bit an exclusive because I did film this the other day on video for a very short video, only 4 minutes long. It's been edited, ready to go. Where I do chop some videos, not videos, I do chop some bottles in half with this. But you're going to have to wait. I'll surprise you when I publish it. So this is a bonus video to anybody that joins the live stream, that I'm telling you about that bonus video. Got to try to flick it over without it rolling on its side again. I'm going to get a lot of kindling out of this log, so that's good. Or maybe it's a branch. Probably more of a branch than a log. You get logs out of this, so this is definitely a branch. I'm branching out. And then what the Norse and the Saxon would do, so they know it's their bit of wood, they'll just get a knife and write their runes in it. So I could do that, and I could do this and that, and go down and put an R. And then I've inscribed a rune of my initials, although that's not my initials, that's just a R for rad. But that was also a common practice as well. And then they also used to have rune sticks with their names on. So if they was transporting goods, you know, to go and trade, they'd have a tag with their goods, so they know who belonged to what and to who. And perhaps in the future we'll make some runic tags. But then they used to get bits of bits of wood and write rude inscriptions and runes and jokes and all sorts, and you know, leave your name behind, you know, Braggy was here. We've been doing that since we learnt the ability to write, leaving your name and funny messages and jokes. Oh, we're getting there with this. Yeah, I wasn't planning on doing this on camera, but I thought it would be a nice touch. But are you enjoying it so far? Let me know. It's something different, isn't it? What I don't want with this is to loosen the handle, although it's got a copper rivet going through. But because it's an old item and it's like 30 years old, I'm very cautious about using it too much. And I've never had a sheath for it or a scabbard, so that's another project for another day. But I think when we make one, we're going to make some stamps and finally stamp it and do some embossing in the leather for this one. And then, of course, naturally, it'll hang up this way here on my belt, but I'm sure you agree that's a nice good length. It's about 16 inches, and this used to be a machete. So it was a machete, it got ground down into the shape you see now and worked, and then the guy got, and this is a bone from a cow, it's a cow leg bone, and then made a nice handle and put a little dot and some triangular patterns around the end just to finish it off, and some ring and dot here. So again, it's just showing a bit of design, but not too much. And I also love the fact it's curved, because then it goes in your hand nice. It's very ergonomic when it comes to the fitting in your hand. and that's also very important when you got your Seax or your weapons. I'm not certain whether you can make a bow from willow. Can you make bows from willow? I don't think you can, but it's certainly long enough for a long bow. But I think it'd have to be a much thicker section, so you could cleave it and split it into 4, so you got 4 planks. Then you can make one from each one. But so perhaps finding a much thicker section of willow. But I don't think you can make a bow from a willow. Normally it's ash, and normally it's yew. And perhaps if we go and hunt some yew and some ash, and I get permission to take one down, we could have a go at making a bow. But it's very complicated, and it's not the most easiest of jobs. And I've made some in the past, but most of my bows I've made have normally cracked and failed because I've just not taken the right amount of material off in the process. So, and that's the learning curve. But I did see somebody on TikTok the other day where he runs a course down south in Britain, England, and you go along for the weekend, you pay a few £100, and you basically end up with a longbow. And that's quite a cheap option really, because if you go into a manufacturer, and there's a few guys that do make longbows in the UK, you're paying hundreds and hundreds of pounds. So it's something I don't really have. I've got a modern composite bow, and I've got a modern sort of a longbow, but it's a modern one. And then I had a much shorter one, which was a native Indian one, but I think it'll be too dry to use now. But I was hoping that Eggle's friend Rob Napier would join the channel a little bit and do some archery for us, but he never really got round to it. He did get the invite, but I just not really heard much from Rob. He does now and again leave a comment, but that's another story for another day. Of course, you could use this in the garden as well. I mean, there you go. Look, I mean, it's razor sharp, so it also makes a good, you know, gardening tool to do it off camera. We don't need that in our lives. And when you have fern trees, you always must cut them back in the winter time to the very base, and then you're going to get a much better fern the next year. So let's just continue. I think we've about got all this off. We've got a bit round here, look. Of course, this is also a good exercise for your arms. And it's just following the harder wood inside, so it's not cutting into the harder wood, it's just following the yellowish wood, and it's just taking off the bark and the cambium layer, and then we end up with a nice debarked, you know, bit of log ready for the next stage of manufacturing into something nice. Then you could also tell with when you got the cambium layer left on, it goes brown. It bruises like an apple. So when you got that, you know that's not, you're not taking enough off. When you got this browning staining, which just happens when it aerates with the air, oxidizes. But yeah, this is a much different live stream than we've ever done before, because I've never done any crafting in a live stream, so I'm quite enjoying it. I mean, I could probably do this most days and just craft away and make something or work on something, and then live stream at the same time and talk to you in between. What do you think? Yeah, so that's that one done. We'll put this over here. Hang on a minute. Timber! I'll before I go in tonight, I'll lean it up against this big stump, and then it will just start to dry naturally. then I must collect all my broken bottles and not leave them outside because I don't want to litter. Then it's also important you gather all your bark, put it in a pile to dry, because I want to use that on my fire. But at some point when we've done a lot of work out here, it's just going to be covered in bark, because that's when I use this wood up, I'll go and get some more. So just tidying up a bit first. Anyway, do you have any more comments, anybody? Please, if you know, if you're new to the channel, do say hello. You know, we don't bite. I won't come after you with a machete, don't worry. So, and Brad says, oh, a forge in a wooden house. Not sure about that. Well, yes, it's quite acceptable. And your house is fundamentally open-ended, so all you got is the structure of the pillars, and then you have fundamentally a roof to protect the forge, because most forges in those days were probably clay-based. So, and then it's open-ended with, you know, so you may have half walls, and then the other half of the walls will be open, so it's less fire resistant. I mean, if you go to West Anglo-Saxon village, that is how they have their forge set up. They've got an open-ended building, and it's got an entranceway, no doors, and it's got a few solid walls at the back, but all the rest of the walls are just half walls with big open spaces and a roof. And then there's a guy called Dave the Moneyer, called Grundle, and he has an open-ended workshop. It's basically like a U shape, and that's where he makes his coins and does all his crafting. And he's been on video on a few programs, and you see him. So having an open-ended building is quite acceptable and quite a common practice. Although yes, I do agree with you. You know, it could be dangerous if you're not careful. So most of the time in these buildings, they don't have a wooden floor, so the floor will be dirt, and you don't have a wooden floor because that's how you're going to cause a fire. If you're blacksmithing inside of a building with a wooden floor, you're going to get a hot, you know, bit of coal, bit of hot metal, and before you know it, you're up in flames. So these open-ended buildings have a natural soil or clay floor. Sometimes they put sand inside the floor if you're smithing as well. So that's something I'm trying to aim for down the line, but it's just going to take a bit of work and a bit of working out, and then sourcing the material, and then the difficult bit will be the construction, which I want to do authentically, but also the most difficult bit is going to be the roofing. Now I could think about getting logs and doing shingles, but I'm going to need probably 1,000 shingles to cover a roof at least. And you can pay for them, but that's going to cost £500 to £1,000 if I get them made for me. And of course, I don't have that excess money. But of course, when the channel blows up and we get lots of views and lots of revenue, and I have spare revenue, then that's what we can invest back in the channel and have a nice, you know, place built where we could display and also film, tell stories, talk about history, and also make things from. So yes, so we're at the next stage now of testing another bottle, and we're going to try another bleach bottle. And I'm gonna have a good go at seeing whether I can chop one in half. What do you reckon? Do you reckon it'll work? Do you reckon I could chop that in half? Actually, if I go with the handle, it's going to be more resistance than lower down. And I did one the other day, and I literally got to this stage of it, and then the bottle just bounced, and it didn't cut it at all, which was really surprising actually, because I thought, right, it would have cut it, but just dented it. So not every attempt is going to work, but majority of the time it's going to do some damage. But imagine this was your arm or your leg, and you're being attacked by a Saxon or you know, a Norse warrior with a knife like this. Could it, in theory, go through bone? Which would be another thing we could think about experimenting on, if I can get a leg of lamb or some, you know, half a pig, and then we could test like they do in that Forged by Fire and see the effectiveness of some of the sharp weapons we've got. And I was thinking the other day that maybe I may get Egil Thorsson's Dane axe, which is really too heavy for a combat Dane axe, and actually sharpen it up. But I think I'm going to have a think about that and maybe create a poll and get your guys' opinions on whether I should do that. There's a Dane axe I bought for Egil, but it is too heavy to be used in combat. It is purposely made for a display item you put on your wall. And at some point I will have to go and find the box it came with, because it is actually manufactured by somebody many years ago, and so there'd be more of them out there. It's not just a single one-off item. Oh yes, so bleach bottle. It's got water in, no bleach in it, because the last thing I want is a load of flying bleach flying around and bleaching my trousers. That'd be a no from me. But we'll wait, get some more people in first. And I'm definitely barking on that. I'm barking up the right log with that one. But yeah, that was quite fascinating really. And I still got more bark down here to pick up. But I just want to save it for my fire while I'm picking it up, and tidy up a little bit as I go along. If I got it all in one pile, then I'm alright. But I can't get all the bits, but I'll get a lot of them. Oh, we've gone down to one person. Oh well, picking up bark is bad for the live stream then. No, we must not do that anymore. And at some point I'm going to attempt to do a live stream in vertical where I can invite people. So if anybody wants to join me on a live stream, you know, talk about the Norse, talk about Saxons or anything really. I know definitely Sam wants to do it with me, Sam Stapleton. So I'll be quite interested to have a go at that and see how it goes. But we'll wait to see if we get a few more people in before I chop this bottle here. And don't forget to like the live stream, but also share it as well. If you're on Facebook, give it a share. If you're on any you know, medieval groups on Facebook, or if you're on Reddit or on X, do share the live stream, because I'm rubbish at sharing things. I'm trying to get better, but it just all takes time. Right, we'll wait. If we get one more person in, I'm going to chop this bottle. So I'm building up 4. Come on, one more. Oh, we've gone down to 1 again. I must say, it's been a lovely day. It was very warm in my bedroom up there a few minutes ago before I did this live stream. And I not long filmed a video for the alternative series I'm doing on mental health earlier for this weekend. So it's in the bag already. But I was quite surprised when I finished recording. It was 54 minutes long. Didn't think it would be that long. Chop this in off. No, not quite. Sorry, I'm getting choppy. Or stabby, as Deep Digger Dan used to say. Yep, bit more bark. Put that on the pile. So you wonder it will chop this in off. Oh, see, look at that, straight off. Don't need that in my life. I should have that on a t-shirt. Yeah, when it comes to the merchandise, I've not started the new shop, because I did a shop last week, but I selected the wrong country, so I've got to do it all over again. So from tomorrow, I'm going to be concentrating on that and starting a new 4th wall shop. So hopefully by the weekend it will be live again, and then you guys will better go and buy some merchandise. But of course, if you want something specific, if you want a specific picture or you know, a saying on the channel, or you want, you know, a picture of Eggle on a t-shirt with a saying, then do let me know, because I will go out and design it for you and put it onto 4th wall, and then you can have your t-shirt of your design rather than just having a generic one, and then we'll add that to the old list of merchandise. So please do think about that. If you want something very specific designed for you, and then you can go and buy it on 4th wall. And I do have a bit of control over the prices compared to the last one we had, which I think was spring, where you had no control over the prices. But of course, the lower the price I put the price, the less profit I'm going to make, and you don't make a lot compared to what they make. So I'm only making a third, which is a little bit low in my mind. So I think in the future, I think on Shopify you make more profit. And the only reason why I want to make profit is so that I can fund the channel and buy more of these. So yeah, so we're going to get ready for chopping this one in half. So let me know in the comments, do you think I could chop it in half, or do you think it's going to do half a job or bounce off and fly away again? Just let me know in the comments before I attempt it. And should I do it with one hand or two hand? Because fundamentally this is a one-handed weapon. Ah, 5, here we go. Right. Oh, there we go. See, straight in half. I hope I didn't block that. I must say, that was quite impressive. And I didn't put a lot of force into it either. And it's a bit of a concave cut as well. It's not a straight cut. But, because it smells of bleach. But, yeah. Let's just put this one here and see if we can chop this one directly in half. Oh, yeah, there you go. So again, it's had no problems with it being chopped in half, and I'm sure you agree, that's pretty damn cool. I think this one will struggle because I think they're going to be more resistant. Not quite. It's had about half an inch left. Oh, well, that was very impressive. And I don't know whether this could chop in half. We'll put this here and see what happens. I think this will just dent. Yeah. It had a go, but it's because of this handle. So it did a slight cut, but because of this handle, it's just too much resistant in the handle, the plastic. But again, that's quite fascinating. And with these lids, you can recycle these in your microwave to make things out of plastic as well. So, and of course, we get into the stage in society where we're going to have less plastic. So definitely, if you're into model making or modelling with plastic, save your plastic. Perhaps not chop it in half with a sharp weapon. So again, we're going to try this one. This is a Domestos. There's no certain brand on here. This is not some kind of a secret advertising for bleach bottles, by the way. This is just random bottles I've got. We'll take the paper off. There we go. I'm not working for Domestos. God blimey, it drops on the floor. I just want to get that message across. This is not some kind of a clever advertising for bleach. That was Loki, that was. The devious god trying to cause problems. So, oh, 7. Well, let's see if we can chop this one in half with this knife. And then when I get in, I'm going to just clean it up and make sure it's not going to get rusty. And I've got a wet shoe now. So that's what I'll go to on this channel. I'll get a wet shoe. So there's another one, just cleaved in half. Again, at an angle. It's not gone straight, so it's gone slightly at an angle. So it's probably got a bit of resistance here, and then slightly gone off curve. So again, fascinating. Yeah. And luckily, it's my blue bin day tomorrow, so I can put all these in the blue bin and get rid of them. Yay, bonus! So we've got another one. Is there any specific request, apart from when it don't fall down, what I should do with this one? Right, stop it, Loki. You're causing trouble. That's Loki's fault. He's there standing and knocking him over and I'm not looking because he's devious and naughty god. So we'll wait until we get a few more people and then we'll attempt to chop this one in half. This one is a oldie one. Just we've got a fair range of the different brands when it comes to bleach bottles. Any more comments? Do leave your comments. It does help if you leave comments in a live stream, it does help the live stream to get pushed out more by YouTube. And of course, if you like the live stream as well, it also says yes, this live stream is popular, and then YouTube will share it. And if you get enough comments and enough likes in a live stream, then they sometimes put it onto the live streaming wall, and then that's when you get a lot of people watching and viewing. And considering what, we've got nearly 10,000 subscribers, you know, we don't often go past 10 people watching. It's a bit of a shame in my mind. I mean, but then again, if I probably advertise them a bit better and not do random live streams, I'll probably get more people watching. So we'll wait. When we get to 5, I'm going to strike this one as well. But you're probably getting bored of me striking these bottles now. Come on, one more. And like I said, I didn't want to wear my biking clothing, my Norse clothing, in case it got bleached by the bleach residue in these bottles. But yeah, I'm quite enjoying this. I think doing that log earlier was good. Having to go with the hazel, that was fun. Chopping up these bleach bottles, that was fun. And after this, I'll be going in to get my dinner. I might have fish and chips. I was in the Wetherspoons earlier. If you don't know what a Wetherspoons is, it's a big UK pub chain, and a few people had fish and chips. I must say, oh my god, it smelled nice. Oh, it smelled so. It's the smell was wonderful. And then I went to another Wetherspoons, which I've not been to since I worked there really, and somebody ordered a cheeseburger and chips, and within 3 or 4 minutes it came. I don't know how they get to cook the food so quickly. It was amazing how fast it came. But then again, it kind of makes you think that, you know, I think if it takes a bit longer, you know it's going to be properly cut and properly homemade cut. So Wetherspoons, they just have it all ready to go, and it's all frozen in the deep fryer, and it literally is a 2-3 minute job to cook a meal, because it's mass produced. It's not homemade, and it's not raw ingredients. It's all mass produced and frozen. Let me just check the battery level. Oh, we're on 83%, we're alright. Whenever I live stream, the #1 tip is to have a battery pack and put your phone to it, then at least it'll guarantee you're going to get a good long live stream if you want a long one. Depends, some people like a long one and some people like a short one. Say no more. I like a long little Seax myself. Yeah. I don't know why I made that noise there. Do you have any comments or questions? I'm here. We've done an hour. Oh, that's well done. Of course, I'll be back tomorrow doing another live stream. I'm trying to do one every day. That's my name. That's my new approach when it comes to live streaming. Because if I just say to myself, well, I'm going to try to do one 2 times a week, let's say a Wednesday and a Sunday night, it's not always going to happen. I'm going to be either busy doing something, I'll forget. So if I plan a live stream and do a live stream every day, whether it's even a bit spontaneous in the times I do it, then at least you're going to get a live stream and you get a bit more interaction. And then hopefully over time these live streams will build up, and that's the aim of the game. Well, God knows what my neighbours are thinking. And luckily we live quite a far distance away from each other, as the houses are very big around here. But you couldn't live stream if you lived in a tiny little house, like a normal house. Well, you could, but your neighbours would be looking at, oh bloody hell, Andy's at it again. And don't forget to go and check out today's beer review. I've done a few of those beer reviews, and I must say, I quite like them. Yeah, I got a slight dent on my handle. Never mind. I'll always remember it from this live stream. I can sand that down. So Josh says, where do you guys go for your swords? Well, generally, if I'm going to buy a sword, I'll try to get one from Paul Binns. Maybe if I want one that's not of the same quality, but the same sort of a standard, you could look at Armour Class. They're from Scotland, although you normally have to wait a few months if they don't have them in stock. But it does have a good range of Anglo-Saxon and Viking and Norman swords. But though my number one choice would be to look for a second-hand Paul Binns sword. Even if you got to pay £200–300 for it, it's definitely worth the money, because you know, if you're paying £300 for a second-hand sword like a Paul Binns, it's not generally going to lose its money. It's just going to go up in value because they do keep the money. And then you have other suppliers, but you get some of the Indian and Chinese suppliers, but I don't really like them. So yes, if you want to, you know, and then if you want to go top quality, then you go to Todd's Workshop and you pay £2,000 to £3,000 for a sword. But that's if you want a pattern welded sword. I don't know if Todd makes actual combat blades. Depending if you want a combat blade or you want a display item as well. So if you want a display item and you got a £3,000 spare and you want a nice pattern welded Viking or Anglo-Saxon blade, but then definitely Todd's Workshop. And there's a few other, you know, manufacturers to his level of craftsmanship you could pay the same amount of money for. And if you want a good, you know, combat blade, then definitely check out Paul Binns. I do believe he's still going. I'll have to have a look actually online and see if he is still going and making blades, but you will have to wait a while unless he's got some in stock. Normally there's always a waiting time. Now I know at Todd's Workshop, if you want a nice sword buying, you're normally waiting 11 months to get it, so you've got to be prepared to wait as well some days. And then if you're going to buy off a manufacturer who you may not have heard of, and somebody a bit like Maxim Armories, who's not got the best reputation when it comes to delivery time, then do pay on your credit card if you have one. And then if you pay on a credit card and it's been 3 months, then at least you can go to your bank and say, well, I pay for this item. You said I could have it in 2 months. I've not got it, and you can get your money back. Although when I bought some items of Maxim Armories and I was in the same position waiting 4 or 5 months, I just got to the stage where I said to him, look, if I don't get the items soon, I'm just going to take it to a small claims court. Now, as a reenactor and a collector, you shouldn't have to say that to somebody. And if I'd known about his reputation in the first place, I probably wouldn't have gone. And then Josh says, I got a Binsey, great quality. Yeah, I probably got about 8 or 9 Binseys. So they are great quality. Paul may be one in 4 months. Well, there you go. But do you know whether he's still going? And what did you pay for your sword with the current prices? Because I'm probably a little bit outdated, because most of my swords I've had for 10–15 years. I mean, I got 20–30 swords in the house. I don't really need that many more, even though I'm still looking. I probably will invest in the future. I mean, I'm definitely going to invest in kit, and then I'm going to invest in all the kit which I don't need, but I can sell on, you know, if anybody would, you know, across the world. I mean, there's a guy on the channel who was saying, well, he can't find a perfect sword. So you paid £800 with a scabbard, horn, and brass hilt. No, that's not too bad, really. I mean, considering the quality and the time it takes, and at least you know that that investment isn't going to go down, it's going to go up. So in 5 years it'll be worth £1,000, and in 10 years it'll be worth £1,200, £1,300, £1,400, because they won't go down in value. They never do, good quality items, and it's definitely worth paying. But if you want a good budget one, then do check out Armour Class. They've got some very nice blades for between £200 and £300. And there's 2 or 3 I won't mind buying, and they are combat, I do believe. And I've had an Armour Class before as a combat sword, and they are actually quite good for the price. But I think they're made in India, not in the UK. Yeah, and it's still going. Yay! Oh, that's brilliant to know. Oh, thanks. So while you're here, we're going to attempt to chop this bottle in half with this. So, oh, there we go. Straight off. Oh, in fact, if it was pure water, I could drink from that, but it's got bleach in, probably residue. So I'm sure you agree that's rather deadly. And this used to be a machete. So if you go to a car boot and buy a machete, you can grind them down, don't overheat the blade as you converting it, and make yourself a nice Seax. Then you could always get yourself a bit of antler and then fasten it on the end, heat it up the tongue, not too much, but enough to burn it in. You Yeah. And then Josh says he's making me a Seax and a spear right now. So how much are you paying for your Seax and how much are you paying for your spear from Paul Binns? And what group are you in? Love to know. It's been a long time since I've been in a group, mainly because I was caring for my dad and I couldn't get out of the house in between 2017 and really 2023. So like 6 years I was just stuck inside all the time. And you can't have enough of these, you know, sea axes and swords really. But then that's going to be splendid for you. Oh, so you just like collecting? Well, you like me then, at the moment. I've been in quite a few groups. I may look to think about joining in the future, but it's also nice to collect these items. But at least you could join a group and just do some training just so that you get to use it. Would be also a nice experience for you, because it's, you know, a Binsey blade is such a nice thing, especially when it rings as well, and to learn that ability to use a sword. But I'm always up for having people around and teaching them how to use a sword, because I've got so much experience with that and I've been in so many battles. But you do have to be careful. Yeah, so that's lovely. Lovely to see you here on the channel, Josh. A warm welcome to Northworthy. Yeah, there's definitely things I want to buy and have more of. I don't have a longbow, I don't have a crossbow, want a Norman one. Go for some Roman gear, maybe go into the Iron Age, Celtic stuff. I love a suit of armour. I will do in time. But it all takes money and it all takes time to buy. And most of the time when I'm on my camera, live stream, I normally dress as a Viking, but I just didn't want to get my nice woolen clothing covered in bleach. Yeah, so you watched a couple of vids. Yeah, well, to be fair, there's quite a lot on the channel. I mean, some of the shorts format can be a bit daft and a bit AI, some of it, and some of it can be quite good when it comes to the historical side of things. But I do try to put a variety out there. But mostly the long format is the best stuff on the channel. And you know, I've definitely been filming quite a bit recently and doing a more in-depth look at some of the weapons I've got and getting into that a bit more as well. And Hashtag says, good video, good vid. Oh, nice to see you, Hashtag. Hashtag. Love to see you, man. You guys are always welcome on the channel, you know that. And of course, if it weren't for you guys watching, I wouldn't be doing it. So, you know, you keep me going on the channel and you keep me wanting to produce more videos and make better videos. And I've just very recently, this week, started filming with my decent camera rather than my mobile phone. So hopefully in the long format and some of the short videos, you'll see an increase in the quality, but also the sound as well. Because I've just not had a memory card for some odd reason. I couldn't find mine in the house. And I don't have, well I do have, but I couldn't find an SD card reader. So stupidly, those two things have stopped me from using my decent Lumix Panasonic camera, which was like £2,000 when I bought it 2 years ago. And it's way better in quality when it comes to your mobile phone. It's a pity you can't live stream through them really. So perhaps in the future we'll look to invest in a decent camera for live streaming rather than using a mobile. Because mobiles are great, you know, you're knocking about, and I've just signed the new contract from a broadband, which is going to give me a mobile with unlimited data. It means, in theory, I should be able to live stream when I'm out and about at locations, which is something I'm going to add to the channel. So I'm working on that in my mind and in theory, and I want to go to Wales and record a bit of content over there, and perhaps spend a bit of time in Wales. At some point I'm going to have a little camper van where I can travel around and go to places. So I'm from near Sheffield. I wanted to do a DNA test to see if I had Viking Saxon heritage, laughs out loud. Well, yeah, you should do. Maybe when I get to 100,000 subscribers I may do one of them. I mean, I've got club toes, which is generally a generic sign that you may have Viking DNA. But I think a lot of us do have Norse and Saxon DNA. So, but then again, it's a very mixed DNA. Because there's no fundamental thing as an Englishman or British person, because of the fact that we've had that much immigration from, you know, the Bronze Age upwards. So, and then I'm in Shropshire. You're welcome to pop in for a chat and a tea. Well, yes, I'll bear that in mind, because I definitely want to go and film in locations. So when I am going to locations, I will let people know on the channel, and then you can invite me round, and you know, I'll have a cup of tea with you. I'd love that, and perhaps go and do some channel meets as well in different locations, because I mean the channel growth is just going up like this. So we know, I think in about 6 months we should have about 15 to 20,000 subscribers. So it's really going well at the moment. And then Hasdak says, I did my DNA, I'm Anglo-Saxon. Oh, wicked. So yeah, I'm kind of waiting for that till it gets to a big point on the channel. Then I'm definitely going to think about doing it as like one of these reveals. I'll be horrified if I don't come back as Norse or at least Anglo-Saxon. You know, if I come back, I don't mind being Irish, that's fine, Celtic, I'm fine with that. But if I come back as being Frankish, I'll be horrified. Oh yes, Yorkshire. Yes, I'd love to do a DNA test. Born in Yorkshire. Well, I'm born in Derbyshire, born in Derby. So I'd love to do one as well. But down the line, I mean, I got no idea how much they cost. I bet they must cost like £50 to £100 to do one. But definitely want to have a go in the future. I'm getting to the point of the night where these little midges are starting to fly about, and they really, when I'm outside at this time of night filming, but sometimes I film in the afternoon into the evening, you start getting itchy, and it makes you think how long that goes back in history. There's poor old Olaf the Viking, or you know, Cedric the Anglo-Saxon, and you know, you're outside and you start getting itchy. Oh, bloody midges. And Hashtag says they are cheap now. Oh right, so that's definitely something to think about. Not for 10,000 subs. I've already filmed one video for the 10,000 celebration, which is an unboxing video. I should have done 2 years ago, and I wanted to do it because I want to be able to use the 2 items that are in the box, so I could put them onto the channel, because one of them's really quite amazing, and the other one's, well, it's okay, but I want to use those 2 items. I'm not going to tell you what they are. And then I'm doing a location filming, which I suppose I've got to think about, because I'm getting close to the 10,000 mark. So then Hashtag says, when I did mine it was 80 quid. But it's not too bad, is it, really? Really, so yeah, definitely something to think about in the future, but I'm going to wait until we get to a bigger milestone on that, and we've got a bigger audience. But we will get there. But I doubt my girlfriend would ever want to do one, because she's very private and she doesn't even like me mentioning her on the camera. I've been told off for that. So, bad braggy, don't talk about your girlfriend on camera. And then Hasdak says, almost at 10k subs. Yeah, well, that video of the cannabis video is doing quite well at the moment, even though it's not really vastly related to the channel. It's just a comedy video from TikTok, a comedy meme. But it's nice to see that quite a few of our videos are getting good views at the moment, because we did go for that stage on YouTube where I was putting out videos and I was only getting, you know, the short videos, a few hundred views. So I'll have to go back in the past history and download those videos and re-edit them to a new video, and then probably unlist those other videos. I think there's lots of videos I've got to unlist really, but I just don't really want to. And I kind of like this. Do you unlist old videos? Do you make them private? Now, what you should never do is delete old videos. That's a no-no in my book. But if I've got a video with 300 views and I can re-edit it and get it to 3,000 views, then that's a win-win, isn't it? But do you keep that old video up, even though the new video is a new video, because you re-edit it, you speeded it up, you maybe zoomed in a bit more, you may have put, you know, some, you know, subtitles on the video, which I'm doing more and more these days on the YouTube Create app. Although I do wish it was a bit more updated and a bit more modern when it came to some of the subtitles I do see on TikTok. They seem to be a little bit more advanced. But then again, do you need subtitles? Because YouTube have got subtitles, and yes, you know, it's a bit difficult for YouTube to understand Eggle's name, as I've seen Eggle described as, you know, egg, eagle, or Eggle with 2 G's, and then it gets my name wrong because it's not used to Viking names. It's not used to Braggy, and it's not used to Eggle as a name. Oh, look, some birds flying over. It's probably Odin keeping an eye on me. They look like crows. And then Hasdak says, "Well, well done." Well, yes, so it's nice to have really good growth. I mean, at the moment, in the last 2 days, we've done 85,000 views on the shorts, on the rest of the long format, and the long format videos are being watched as well. So it's increasing, but when it starts to take off, and when you get to the stage when it just goes straight up, then there's going to be an awful lot of videos for people to go and watch, and then all those old videos are going to get more views. And I'm certainly got videos from the shorts format which have been out for 2-3 years, and they're flatlined, and then suddenly over the last year they've just gone straight up like that, you know, literally a vertical line going from 1,000 views to 50,000 views in 6 months. So when that happens 6 months from now and 12 months from now, we're going to have more views, and all that content I'm making is going to pay off. Because normally with a shorts video you get a few weeks, 3 months, and it dies off. Normally it can be a few weeks. So it's nice to see some of the short videos have actually taken off after 2-3 years. But I really got to go through all the videos on the channel. Yeah, so sorry to bring it up. No, it's okay. But did Eggle pass? I've seen him in recent videos and older videos saying rest in peace. Yes, sadly, yes. Eggle did pass away in 2023 very suddenly. And I know before I spoke to him, before he passed away, he said it was very important that I continued his journey on the channel, you know, and I think we kind of knew something was wrong with him, and he knew that something was wrong with him. After he was texting me, and we spoke on the phone a few times. I'll tell you what happened in a minute. And I spoke a few times to Eggle, you know, about what do you want me to do, because he was much older than me. I mean, Eggle would be 70 now or odd. So, you know, I kind of say, well, what do we do, Eggle, when you pass away in the future? And we talked about this, and we sat down over a bottle of wine, and he said, well, to me it's very important that you continue my legacy, he says, and you continue my memory, because we put so much work into the channel, and you know, it's been an amazing journey, he says, and you know, he thanked me for inviting him, and he said, you know, it's so important that we do this, and quite a few of his friends also said the same thing to me. He said, please do keep Simon, as his real name was, memory going. So it took me a while to think about what to do. So this is why I created Eggle Thorson Day. It's just a little day to remember his memory and to keep his memory alive. And yeah, some days in the short videos you're going to see him doing daft things and a few daft videos, which is helping that journey. But on the 9th of every month we're going to have fundamentally either a re-edited video or a brand new video. I'm trying to at the moment use older videos and re-edit them, because I'm just saving the new videos which I've never published and never edited, and there's quite a few of them. So, and I mean, I've been thinking about it. Well, I mean, at first I thought, well, do we just do it all in a year? But I thought, no, we can prolong the memory out of Eggle. So the idea of doing one a month is so that we have a longevity, and I reckon we could do at least 10 years worth, because I have literally probably over 100 videos which I've never published or edited from Eggle, all in a long format, and there's a few videos in the short format which haven't been published yet. So that's the idea. Then of course you'll see him in between, and of course as a Norse warrior, and he was very much a Viking in real life, legacy is very important. It's that word fame. So I can imagine now, you know, if you're there with me, he'll be amazed to see what we're doing, and he'll be over the moon with the fact that he's still remembered. And how many people get to have that legacy after you go and you die? Not many people really in life. So it's my little mission, and it's the mission of the channel, and we'll keep doing what we're doing. And then I'm working on other channels, but they're just behind the scenes on something completely different. And then me and my girlfriend want to do something completely different as well. But we'll keep on doing this channel as well, and we'll add more depth. And I even think, I think we could even get to the stage where we may be able to bring Eggle back, in the sense of with AI, when it becomes good enough, where you could create a video of somebody and recreate his voice. We could have Eggle as a digital host in the future, but that's going to take a bit of technology, and we're getting there, but we're not there yet. And I know there's certainly AI programs where you could recreate somebody's voice, but I've not really explored that down the line so far. But I think it's very important that we do remember him, and we do keep his legacy going, really. And yeah, I do miss him, because he was such a lovely and fascinating individual, even though at times he can get a bit grumpy, because, you know, the amount of times when I'm being on camp, and you know, like one time when he had to try to get his car into a car parking space and he couldn't do it, he like got out of the car and started kicking his car, saying stupid car, and going off on one. And another time when he couldn't get his male shirt off, and he had a male shirt and it was all stuck around his head, and he started kicking things. And yeah, and then Josh says, well, how did you meet him? Well, I met him through reenacting. So I started off in '93 reenacting the American Civil War, and then I went to a multi-reenactment event called Kirby Hall. And, you know, there was literally 5,000 to 10,000 reenactors there, from, you know, the Bronze Age up to World War II. And I was at an event there. We was all waiting to go into a battle, and I saw all these Vikings. So, you know, when you're hanging about, there's lots of hanging about waiting for the battle to start, but there's lots of marching, lots of stopping and starting, and lots of hanging about. So we're hanging about, and all these Vikings were hanging about for their battle after our battle. And I went over to say hello, you know, hello, love your kit, you know, could you tell me about it? I love Vikings. And by chance I met a guy called Gary from Derby, from where I live. And he, you know, said, oh, you sound a bit local. I said, where are you from? I said, oh, you know, he's from Weston-on-Trent, which is, you know, 10 miles this direction. And I said, oh, I'm from Derby. I said, I've always fancied being a Viking reenactor. And he said, oh, we've got a training weekend next weekend. I said, we practice in Alistree Woods. I said, oh, really? I said, that's only 2-3 miles from my house. When I used to live in Mickleover, which is in that direction, about 3 miles. And then at the same time, that same year, I moved to Alistree by chance. So my parents were moving house to Alistree from Mickleover. So that's where I met Eggle at the first training weekend. We just do a training session every 2 weeks on a Sunday in the local wood. We get permission from the council.